and welcome back to the Survivor's Mic podcast. I'm your host, Posh, and I'm excited that we're on episode 15. And I hope and I can only imagine that you feel my smile and my excitement, right, when I do these episodes. But if you have been here for a while, you would know what this space is about, and it's really created for just honest and innocent conversations, and there's no judgment, there's no fighting for perfection, but rather just talking and having conversations around what it truly means to survive and what it also means to live life beyond survival on that other side of the coin, so to say. So what we're doing this week is very exciting because it's the continuation of what we did last week. And so if you have not listened to episode 14 from last week, I want you to go back and do that, because we looked into 5 lies that survival taught us, right? Or survival taught you. And these were things like, you are too much, you have to earn your place, you are not ready to heal. And I think some of the responses that came through from this episode were very empowering, because some people say they needed to hear this, not because they didn't know about it, but it's very helpful to just know that they are not alone in going through that. So brace up and prepare your pen and paper, and let's get to the list of the rest of the other 5 lies that survival teaches us or tells us, which is not true at all. But let's get into it. So lie number 6, if you slow down, everything will fall apart. Can I tell you something? The survival mindset is addicted to motion. It learned very early that stillness was dangerous, that if you stopped moving, stopped managing, stopped holding everything together, hoped being the one who keeps it all running, something terrible would happen. And so you became the person who is always busy. You're always available. You're always one step ahead of the next crisis. Always doing, you're planning, you're fixing, you're managing things. But you never fully rest. You are never fully present. Because somewhere underneath all of that motion is a fear that you would stop, that you would lag behind. Even for a moment, everything you have been holding will collapse. I know that feeling. I know it intimately. But here's what I've had to learn over time. Rest is not negligence. Slowing down is not the same as falling apart. It's not the same as failing. It's not the same as lagging behind. The things that are worth keeping in your life will not collapse the moment you stop. The moment you stop pushing, the moment you stop forcing things, they will not stop, because they matter to you anyway. And they would understand that you have to take a break and you deserve one. And the ones that do, whether they're people or, the work that you do, anything, maybe, or just maybe, they were never as stable as the busyness made you to feel. You are allowed to put things down. You are allowed to slow down. You deserve that treat and you deserve that break. You deserve to rest. Even for a little moment. Even without a plan. Even when it feels terrifying. The world will not end. And you, especially you, will finally get to breathe. And so let's digest that and think about that. And I know we do this. We plan a lot. We look forward to resting. Sometimes we tell ourselves we will, this coming weekend I'm going to be chilled, right? That's the word we use. And we still find ourselves in this chase of things or people, achievements, accomplishments, and the list goes on, and it never stops. So lie number 7, your feelings are a burden to others. Oh, this one runs deep, really deep. And so many of us learned to manage our emotions privately, to process things in silence, to show up composed and capable and fine and able and keeping our composure, behaving around people. Because somewhere along the way, we absorbed the message that our feelings were inconvenient to other people, to those around us, to our loved ones, to those we care about, and to those whom ultimately we should actually matter more to. But we fear, and we start this process of wanting to protect them, of wanting to not be too much to them, and end up abusing their kindness and the attention that they give to us. So it's too heavy, it's too much, it's too hard for other people to hold. And so we held them ourselves. We carried in the shower, we cried in the shower. On heavy shoulders, we had these thoughts and these ideas that we are too much for others. We processed these thoughts at 3 a.m. alone. We stared at the ceiling longer than usual, going through this process of these thoughts and trying to find a place where they belong, just not in the face of those whom it might end up being too much for. We presented the world with a version of ourselves that needed nothing, because needing things had cost us before. But here's the truth I've learned over time. Your feelings are not a burden. They are just information. They are evidence that you are human, like everybody else. They are the most honest thing about you. They are the most trusted type of data that anybody who cares and is around you should pay attention to and be able to understand you better. And the people who genuinely love you, the safe ones, the real ones, they are not waiting for you to need nothing. They are waiting for you to let them in. Come on, take that in. They are not waiting for you to need nothing. They are waiting for you to let them in, for you to create that space, for you to open up your heart, to communicate to them that you are able to receive their love and their care, and you will embrace whatever that they will do and sacrifice for you. So vulnerability is not weakness, and this is ultimately a whole episode on its own, if not a series, right, about vulnerability. It is not a weakness. It is the doorway through which real conversations walk, through which real conversations exist, and they even coexist with your fears communicated to your loved ones. You do not have to carry everything alone. You were never supposed to. You were never created as a human being who is an island. You coexist with others, and you coexist with those whom are dear to you and who love you the most. So embrace that. And that gets us to line number 8. And this one I want you to really sit with. Line number 8. This one I really want you to sit with. You are defined by what happened to you. Oh, Jesus, help us. This is one where imposter syndrome kicks in. We know this one, right? But let's read it out again. You are defined by what happened to you. The survival mindset builds an identity around the wound. This is deep. The survival mindset builds an identity around the wounds. And it makes complete sense. When something happens to you early enough, especially in your childhood, deeply enough, painfully enough, it can start to feel like it is simply you who are. It is simply who you are. The one who was abused, the one who was abandoned, the one who was never chosen, the one who things happen to. You start to introduce yourself through your pain without even realizing it. The story of what happened becomes the story of who you are. Can we just take a moment to think about how crazy it is, especially when it comes to the issue of shame, which is something we have to talk about on a different episode. Is it not crazy that somebody who molested you 10, 12 years ago, somebody who abused you, somebody who mistreated you, they get to move on and live their lives without shame, and you are the one who carries it, and yet you were just a child, even if you were a grown-up person? That is crazy to me. Every time I try to think about it, I find it to be crazy. Why do we carry these burdens? Why do we carry the shame? Why do we carry the embarrassment of what happened to us as if we are the ones who did those things to ourselves? Am I making sense? I hope I am. And I don't mean to preach here. I used to be a preacher in my younger years. But anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. Right? So you start introducing yourself, according to, what happened to you, not who you are. And these are two different people, ultimately. But I need you to hear this clearly. What happened to you is part of your story. It is not the whole of it. That was prior survival. And now you're most likely beyond survival, or you're still surviving, which is ultimately okay. But you cannot afford to be defined by that which already happened in the past, especially if you had nothing to do with inflicting all those pains on yourself. And even if you did, we are human, we make mistakes, and we move on, right? So you are not your trauma. You are not the sum of every hard thing you survived. Absolutely not. You are a living, breathing, continuously becoming person. And no single chapter, however painful it was, however defining it felt at the time, gets to be the title of the entire book, which the book is your whole story of your life. This is quite interesting. There is nothing of all of that that gets to make a whole conclusion of who you are. They've been conversations lately about, these great soccer players. I'm not well versed with soccer, and one of the big names lost, I think, and people made so much noise over, we always knew he was not all that. And I'm like, no, hold on. Hold on, stop right there. All these years, this individual became a name globally, not only in their village. How do you get to take this single scenario happening in 2026 and you rub off everything else that he ever did in his career? There's the same scenario here. Your childhood, or that one moment where your partner mistreated you, or they molested you, or they betrayed you, it cannot ultimately rub off everything else that you ever did in your life, and you felt like you were proud of yourself. You are more than what was done to you, either by other people or by yourself, because we do this thing where we are so good at punishing ourselves over and over and over again. which again is another episode. There's going to be a lot of episodes that they're going to, But what am I saying here? You are more than what was done to you. So much more. If you really do an audit of your life, you will realize there's so much goodness and there's so much beauty in this thing that's called your life. In your case, your life, and in my case, my life. That the single moments of abuse, the single moments of trauma, they don't ultimately get to define who we are ultimately. All right, let's get to line number 9. Asking for help means you have failed. Jesus, this is quite unfortunate, but at the same time, we can't afford to not talk about it, right? So survivors are always the most fiercely self-sufficient people you will ever meet on this planet Earth. All sufficient, all round, independent, right? They need nobody. And I say that not as criticism. I say it as someone who understands exactly where that comes from. So when the people who were supposed to help you did not do that, the people who were supposed to protect you as a child couldn't do that for you. The people whom you ran to and they could not show up for you. When you then go and ask for help and there's dismissal, or it feels like a punishment, or there's simply silence and there's nothing, they don't help you at all. You learned to not need anybody. You learned to not need anyone. You figured things out yourself. You became the one who never asked for anything. The one who managed it all. The one who looked capable, even when they were barely holding on inside. And I know this one. This is so me. I'm not even trying to. In this very moment, I'm talking to myself. So over the years, you realize, okay, if you probably grew up in a dysfunctional family like I did, you just know I'm on my own. And maybe, once in a while, my brother or my sibling will kind of like fight for me. But ultimately, I'm on a solo journey of figuring out life. It is even more painful if you're a teenager, if you're a girl child growing up somewhere in Southern Africa like I did, and you're trying to just go through life, right? But this is where it brings you. You feel like it's a weakness to need help. And weaknesses have consequences, right? But here's the truth. I'm still learning myself until today. Asking for the help is not failure. It is wisdom. Seeking counsel. If you're a Christian, you would know how many times the book of Proverbs and Psalms, which is, father and son filled with wisdom who wrote the 2 books, how many times they spoke about the wisdom in a person who seeks counsel from wise men. Ultimately, men and women, depending on who you get, counsel from. So asking for help is not a failure. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that you are human, like everybody else. That you have limits. That allowing others to contribute to your life is not weakness. It is trust. Pick that word. Mark that word. It is trust. Trusting that there are people out there who love you, who have you, as their best interest, people who are willing to go out of their way to be there for you. And you give in to that. That's trust. You surrender to that idea of saying, okay, I'm going to trust this individual as someone who cares for me and who is willing to help me, right? So it is trust. It is connection. It is the very thing the survival mindset spent years teaching you to avoid. And we had this conversation. If it took us so many years to train our brain to be so negative, to be in survival mode day and night, 24/7, we can still train our brain to think about all these good things. We can still teach and train our brain to trust people, to connect with people, to ask for help, and to understand that we are not too much to anyone. Our feelings can be considered and can be communicated with wisdom and emotional intelligence, and they can be received by the recipient. I hope I'm making sense, huh? So going to therapy is not failure. And I'll say this, to my community, Black people, please, let's go to therapy. It does not mean we have failed. There's a reason why we have professionals. Let's do that. I started that 2 months ago. It's going very well for me, right? Community, being part of a community is not a failure, like I've just spoken right now to my people, right? Calling a friend at 2 a.m. is not failure. If you need them, you gotta call in for help. These are not signs that you couldn't manage your situations. These are signs that you're no longer managing on your own or alone. And that is growth, my dear survivor. That is you living beyond survival. Because when you're still in survival mode, you were convincing yourself that you are enough on your own, that you're sufficient, that you can fix it, that no one can get to hear about this, otherwise they will think you're weak. But living beyond survival is you acknowledging that you're human, and when you hurt, then you're hurting. You don't ignore those feelings. And when you need help, then you will call in at 2 a.m. and you will seek help, right? So let's get to line number 10 before I keep on preaching all day today. And line number 10 is this. This is the deepest one. The quietest one though, however. And the one I almost didn't say out loud. The one I almost forgot. You don't deserve good things. I need to say this slower. You don't, or you do not, deserve good things. How many times do we tell ourselves this? Right? Going back to, because we use these definitions of what happened to us, most likely was done by other people, and we start judging ourselves this way. Right? And so now, most of us would never say this loud. We wouldn't even admit we believe this. But it lives underneath everything. In the way we self-sabotage ourselves, in the way we judge ourselves, in the way we punish ourselves. And yes, we do punish ourselves. It's another conversation we're going to have. I think soon you're going to get annoyed by me, coming up with episodes while I'm doing other episodes. I'm going to start my Jota, right? Anyway, we self-sabotage ourselves just when things start going well. Whether you finally you've found a great relationship and you just look at it one day and you're like, nah, my relationships don't usually go this good. This is wrong. And then you start looking for something to do to just ruin it, right? In the way we wait for the good thing to be taken away from us. In the way we feel more comfortable in struggle than in peace, because struggle is familiar and peace feels like something that belongs to the other people. Jesus, I remember the years I've lived in this manner. When I get that call with good news, I get into a panic mode like, why? Where is this coming from? Because I'm not used to it. Because years and years and years I've been fighting and forcing things and surviving from one thing to the next and just, moving from hand to mouth and struggling. And that's what we're used to. And so we want that. We want to be in constant struggle. We want to be constantly on our toes, right? So the belief that happiness, that love, rest, success, inner peace, anything good, these are things you can work towards, but never quite settle into. So the idea is that, we are seeking happiness, or we would want to be in a very peaceful relationship. But we never want to settle into that. Because of that trauma, because of that past beliefs that we have always had. That something in you is too broken. It's too complicated. It's too damaged to simply receive good things and believe they are yours to keep. So it's not only just about you having the good things, but you're also not able to keep them. Because this is not what's familiar to you. What's familiar to you is things coming and going, or things never coming at all. So the love never shows up at all, or if it does, it's like a ticking time bomb. 3 months later, they check out, right? So that lie has cost so many of us in so many ways. So I want to say this clearly as I know how. You deserve good things. You and I deserve good things. Not because you've earned them, not because you deserve them, ultimately by the idea of just feeling too special. No, that's not how you deserve things. Not because you have healed enough, not because you have proven yourself worthy through years of suffering. And we do that. We're like, okay, at this point I'm deserving because I've been suffering a lot. No. You deserve these good things because you are here. Because you're just human, like everybody else. I think I've said this way too many times. Because surviving what you survived did not make you less deserving of a full life compared to anybody else who didn't go through what you went through. If anything, it makes the good things more rightfully, more beautifully yours. And this is how you are deserving, just like anybody else. So let them in, open up your arms, open up your heart, and let all these good things come your way. Not later, not when you feel ready, not when you feel comfortable, not when you have tried to make it feel familiar than what you're used to, which is quote-unquote struggle and surviving. Not when you've done enough work, but rather now. Guys, I appreciate you, and I hope this episode is something we're gonna be playing over and over again. I appreciate you. I love you, actually, and I'm enjoying this. Keep the conversations coming, and let's see what we'll have in store next week. But in the meantime, let's brainstorm, let's reflect, let's think about our lives and see where we need the work to be done, especially what I called the mind work. So with that, I'm your host, Posh, and I'll see you next week.